as I begin to look at myself, in order to achieve more and to do more, I know I have to work more on my mind. And let me give you an example how this works. The most money I've ever earned in an hour and a half, $260,000. That's the most money I've ever earned in an hour and a half. A lot of people work a whole month and don't do that, or 6 months. Then, and this is the next thing I want you to do. I want you to look at your relationships, and I want you to upgrade your relationships. See, MIT did a study, and this study indicated that you earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. Not only did I start reading books every day and listening to positive messages, but I separated myself from my friends who did not have goals and who did not have dreams. Why? Because people rub off on you. It's called a mind virus. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. So when you upgrade your relationships, you got to ask yourself the question, who is it that I need to associate with, that I can learn from, that I can grow mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially? By aligning myself with another person that I can learn from. And Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said, if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group. Whoa, think about that. I was the smartest one in my group. Then one person called me who had been admiring me for years and said, Les, I want you to coach me and my trainers on how to tell a story and create value for an audience. And I want to share with you some things. I want to teach you some things, old man. I said, is that right? He said, yes. You always say you're never too old to learn and you're never too young to teach. I want to teach you some things. I said, okay, I'm open to that. Now let me share this with you. He blew my mind. The most money, as I mentioned to you, I've ever earned, speaking to over 8,000 people in Salt Lake City, Utah, $260,000. I did an event with this individual, just over 500 people, because of what I learned from him, because I upgraded my relationships. I earned over $410,000 in an hour and a half. I was excited, but I was also depressed, because I've been speaking for 28 years. And I started thinking about all the money that I left on the table, all the hotels, the plane rides, all of the audiences I spoke to, all of the money that I missed out on because I didn't know that I didn't know, and I thought I knew. I was a big fish in a small pond.
World-class people have a much bigger vision of what is possible for them. Yeah. One of the things techniques I learned many years ago from an expert was called X to 10X. X to 10X, which means imagine that you could go from X, your current income, to 10X, 10 times your current income. And your first response to that is that's completely preposterous. There's no way that I could increase my income 10 times. Yeah. It's not possible. So then I'll ask an audience, I'll say, well, is there any chance at all that you could increase your income by 10 times in the course of your lifetime? Is there maybe one chance in 1,000? Everybody will say, well, there's maybe one chance in 1,000. Okay, then I'll say, well, now how many people here from the time you took your first job until now have already doubled your income? Every hand goes up. Tripled, most hands go up. Quadrupled, lots of hands go up. I said, so you already doubled your income, tripled your income. So all you need to do now is do the same things that you did to double and triple your income, and you'll double and triple it again, and double and triple it again, and then you'll have increased your income 10 times. And there are people all over the world who are earning 10 times as much as you, and they're no better and no smarter than you are. And what this does is it explodes your thinking, because most of us begin to develop narrow thinking around our current income. And then we adjust our lives, we adjust our appetites, the restaurants we go to, the food we eat, the home we live in, the clothes we wear, the car we drive. We forced our whole world to fit into our current income, whereas top people create a vision. Here's an interesting point. Peter Drucker said that if you do not have a vision to be a world leader when you start your business on your kitchen table, you'll probably never be very successful. So if you're starting your business on a kitchen table, imagine you could be a world leader. And then you ask the question, well, if I was the world leader in my field, how would I be different from today? How would my company be different from today? We were just talking earlier about Steve Jobs and Apple Computer. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started out in a garage with an idea to put together pieces and make a little Apple computer that people could have at home. Bill Gates of Microsoft started off with this idea that if they could make it usable, you could have a PC on every desktop. Everyone's heard about that. That was his vision, a PC on every desktop in the world. When he said this in the late 70s, everybody said he must be crazy. The heads of the IBM were saying, there's no reason for anyone to have a computer at home. There's no reason for anyone to have a personal computer. And within a couple of years, they were literally avalanched out of the business because you find that everybody wanted a personal computer. The only question was the technology to build it and the programs to operate. Today, if you don't have a computer, you're living in the Stone Ages. People, your telephone is a computer. You have an iPad, you have a computer at home, you have a... So you start thinking of, if your business was world-class, if you were world-class, how would you be different from today? And then here's the key. This is the key. Take the first step. The first step is always the hardest step because it forces you, like a chick breaking out of an egg when it hatches. The first step forces you to break out of your comfort zone. And the comfort zone is so strong that probably 90% of people are held back from their full potential all their life because of this vice-like comfort zone. And when you take the first step, the only way you can do it is break out. And suddenly you see the second step and the third step and the fourth step. And then as you take the steps, your self-esteem goes up and your self-confidence goes up and you become more creative and you start to think of all kinds of ideas. And people say, what has gotten into you? I mean, what are you smoking? Because whatever it is, you should share it with the others. And so this is the difference between top people, is they have a big idea of what's possible and they take the first step.
Yeah.
Lesson 3, take care of each other. The United States Navy SEALs are perhaps the most elite warriors in the world. And one of the SEALs was asked, who makes it through the selection process? Who is able to become a SEAL? And his answer was, I can't tell you the kind of person that becomes a SEAL. I can't tell you the kind of person that makes it through BUD/S. But I can tell you the kind of people who don't become SEALs. He says the guys that show up with huge, bulging muscles, covered in tattoos, who want to prove to the world how tough they are, none of them make it through. He said the preening leaders who like to delegate all their responsibility and never do anything themselves, none of them make it through. He said the star college athletes who've never really been tested to the core of their being, none of them make it through. He says some of the guys that make it through are skinny and scrawny. He said some of the guys that make it through, you will see them shivering out of fear. He says, however, all the guys that make it through, when they find themselves physically spent, emotionally spent, when they have nothing left to give physically or emotionally, somehow, some way, they are able to find the energy to dig down deep inside themselves, to find the energy to help the guy next to them. They become SEALs, he said. You want to be an elite warrior. It's not about how tough you are. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about how fast you are. If you want to be an elite warrior, you better get really, really good at helping the person to the left of you and helping the person to the right of you. Because that's how people advance in the world. The world is too dangerous and the world is too difficult for you to think that you can do these things alone. If you find your spark, I commend you. Now, who are you going to ask for help and when are you going to accept help when it's offered? Learn that skill. Learn by practicing helping each other. It'll be the single most valuable thing you ever learn in your entire life. To accept help when it's offered and to ask for it when you know that you can't do it. The amazing thing is when you learn to ask for help, you'll discover that there are people all around you who've always wanted to help you. They just didn't think you needed it because you kept pretending that you had everything under control. And the minute you say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm stuck, I'm scared, I don't think I can do this, you will find that lots of people who love you will rush in and take care of you. But that'll only happen if you learn to take care of them first.
You have to look at your relationships and you've got to ask yourself the question, what is this relationship doing to me? And I mean in every area of your life. When the doctor looked at me and said, "You have cancer." Cancer is the most feared word in 7 different languages. One of the first things I had to do, I found out who had cancer at some point in time or was living with cancer and conquered it. I surrounded myself with people who had done what I wanted to do, who were winning at the game. See, it's very important, every area of your life. If you want to improve your health, start hanging around healthy people. They did a 30-year study and said that the reason that most people are obese, it's a mind virus. Listen to what they said. A mind virus is communicated mind to mind. That if you have a friend that's fat or you marry somebody that's obese, you have a 41% to up to 161% of becoming obese yourself. Even if they live in another state. Whoa, why? Because birds of a feather flock together. Never forget, a high school teacher, Mr. Leroy Washington, said, "Mr. Brown, if you run around with 9 broke people, I guarantee you, you'll become number 10. Whoa. Think about that. Part of your mindset development, not only listening, not only reading, but you have got to look at your relationships, upgrade your relationships, and continue to evaluate them and make sure they're an asset to you and not a liability. My son John Leslie is a motivational speaker. He has a saying, "Who should you count on and who should you count out?" See, there's some relationships that can start out real positive, and then sometimes we outgrow people. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever outgrown someone? Somebody you used to be close to, used to be your bosom buddy, and then you haven't been together for a time, and then when you get together, you have absolutely nothing in common. Sometimes that happens with family members. My twin brother, it's a strained conversation because he's talking about, "Les, did you hear who died?" "No, I don't get up reading the obituary column. I'm glad my name is not there." "Hello, I don't care. I'm focusing on living." Our conversations are so different. Isn't it interesting how you can be raised in the same family, same circumstances, by the same parents and end up dramatically different? It's called life. Here's the other thing that's very important. Write down the goals that you want to achieve. Write them down. Put them on a 3x5 card. And I want you to use a King James Version Bible and Matthew 7:7. "Ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you." I want you to write that on one side of the card. On the flip side of the card, I want you to write down one major goal that you want to achieve. And you want to read that 3 times a day. 3 times a day. What are you doing? You're hypnotizing yourself. And you're dehypnotizing yourself. What you're doing is you are dispelling the myths and all of the spells that you're living under. I think that a poverty mindset is a spell. I think that people go so far, and because they're mesmerized by life, they unconsciously stop. And you have to break that spell by constant attention. So on one side you read your goal, that one major goal, 3 times a day. Then the flip side, you flip that scripture over. "Ask and it shall be given. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be given unto you." As you read that every day, 3 times a day, I can tell you, amazing things, breakthroughs will happen for you. Now, we're going to take a break right now, and I want you to take the time to think about this one thing. What is it that you're going to do differently? Because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. You've got to be willing to give up who you have been to give birth to who you can become. I want you to take the time and write down one radical change that you're going to make about you, and you know if you do that, your life will never be the same again.